It has been a minute. On the day I'm recording this, it's June 1st, which means that it's been a little bit over 2 months since I deleted my Instagram account. It is about to be 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and until this point, I spent most of the morning working on my weekly newsletter. And I guess that's a good time now to talk about my newsletter and why I have a newsletter in the first place. So I guess to start, the newsletter is called Radio Silence, and on it I write about nothing. No, maybe a little. It's okay. I'm leaving that in.
Why?
I'm leaving it in.
Me coming in?
Yes.
No, please.
Okay, maybe. But yeah, I mean, so the newsletter that I'm writing is about digital minimalism, productivity, and like other kind of like nerdy-ish self-help stuff that I've picked up in the last couple of years. And as to why I have a newsletter in the first place, there's a few reasons. I think the main one is that I want to be able to connect with the audience that I have without it being attached to social media and algorithms. And so that means that I can take a break from social media whenever I want without like fully losing touch with my audience. The other thing is that I actually just like writing. It's like been a thing for the last couple of years. And I also want to be able to share some of my thoughts along the lines of like productivity and stuff without having to make a whole separate dedicated video every single time I have something to share, especially because I'm going to school in the fall and I'm probably not going to have time to make videos just whenever I feel like it. The newsletter is weekly. I'm not trying to spam anyone's inboxes, I guess. I'm going to put a link in the description, or you can sign up at omarwasim.com. I switched out from omarmwasim.com because my friend actually got the domain for me. I didn't even realize it was available. I'm pretty sure it was taken. But I mean, I'm not complaining. And the last thing about the newsletter is I'm going to be releasing or like announcing a project that I've been working on for like the last year on my newsletter in a few weeks. So hopefully you're signed up before that gets announced, because I don't know if I'm going to announce it on YouTube for a while. And now we can get on with the video. We're going to be going to the beach. The beaches here are super nice, especially the ones we went to last time. I don't think we're going to those this time. And once we're there, I can finally explain the whole reason you clicked on the video, which is I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. Today's thing is going to be why I deleted, and then tomorrow's part is going to be what I've been doing since I deleted, and then what's going to change when I'm back. But it also doesn't really matter to you because they're both going to be in the same video.
Let's get some stability on the bottom.
I think you should wear this.
Alright, we just got to the beach, so I am going to put up my drone now. To be honest, I haven't really been on a beach other than to like shoot it and like never stop walking for the past couple of years, because every time I come I'm just like always walking around to shoot. So I'm actually sitting for once. Like, this just does not happen. I'm still shooting though.
Get started. The camera moving. Throw it up. Go! There it goes. It's tougher.
On today's episode of Almost Crashing My Drone, I am letting a 5-year-old fly it.
Nice.
I don't really know if you can hear me, but I'm just going to hope you can. So I mean, you just saw me fly my drone, and now I figured I would explain why I left social media in the first place. It actually wasn't like a set thing. I didn't plan on like doing a 30-day detox. I didn't plan on deactivating my account even initially. To really explain why I deleted Instagram in the first place, we have to rewind to about the beginning of March. Up until the beginning of March in 2021, I have been shooting like very consistently, sometimes multiple times a week. I went on a road trip in January, a road trip in February, and in March, the beginning of it, I was shooting almost every other day for commercial work that honestly wasn't that interesting to me. And so because I got bored of shooting commercial work, which was like, you know, things like restaurants and clothing brands, I got bored of that. I got bored of photography as a whole. I don't mean this in a bragging way, but I feel like I have reached all of my goals that I set out to accomplish when I started photography and like filmmaking. You know, I've been paid to travel. I've been able to go on road trips. What else? I think I reached 1,000 followers, which was one of my like early goals. I had done a lot of commercial shoots that I wanted to, like shooting Lexus, for example. I met a lot of my like favorite creators that I used to look up to because of my podcast, and also just because of like just getting DM replies, you know, things like that. And it got to a point where even though I was still making money, I wasn't really progressing as far as photography goes or filmmaking, and I wasn't really progressing as far as like opportunities either. I never set out to make photography or filmmaking or social media at all my like life goal. I never wanted to be a photographer full time, and the level of success that I had reached was purely just by luck and just me having fun with creating content. And so all of that combined, by the time March came around, I was super just like not feeling any type of photography, any type of videography. I wasn't even really opening the Instagram app that often. And so in March, I just deleted the app, and I didn't think much of it. The day that I deleted the app was the day that I was rooftopping in San Francisco with my friends Ethan and Robbie. While we were on that rooftop, it was the first time I met Robbie. He's a designer and a photographer on Instagram. He has a lot more followers than I ever had, and he still deleted Instagram a year ago, and he hasn't, used his account since a year ago. And he was telling me this while we were on that rooftop. That's when it like really started to click for me that I didn't have to use Instagram even though I am a creator. And this whole concept of deleting Instagram, Robbie was not the first person to introduce it to me this year. I had a close friend delete it in January, and then another close friend delete his account in March. And both of those people did not miss it at all after they deleted. But the excuse in my head was always just like, maybe it's different for me. It wasn't. Now, the one part that I did initially miss about Instagram was not being able to update my stories, which is a whole other problem in and of itself. So with being a creator, you feel like you always have to be updating your story so that you stay relevant and so that Instagram's algorithm keeps pushing your content to your followers. Whenever I was doing anything that I thought was remotely interesting, I felt like I had to kind of take myself out of the moment and then pull out Instagram and then find a filter, and then find music and then post it. And that's by no means like a real problem. You can always just take the video on your camera roll and save it for later. But for me, I put a lot of importance into the aesthetic of my stories. And because of that, I found that I was like almost always never fully living in the moment. Now back to that day when I was on the roofs with Robbie and Ethan. That night I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just delete the app for a few days and then I'll just re-download the app and everything will be fine. The only thing I was a little bit worried about was losing contact with some of my friends. Even though there are like weird people on social media, there's also a lot of like really nice people that I would not have met because they don't live near me. Like people in LA or even just like Vancouver, Canada, that there's no chance I would have met these people. But once I did through social media, they became some of my like actual close friends. And I was initially worried about like losing contact with them. But in those few days after I deleted, I was able to pick back up all my conversations with those people just on other messaging platforms. And I'm sure I did, fall off with a few people. But once I reactivate my account in a few days, it's not like I'm gonna have beef with them. And for the most part, I'm pretty sure I can just pick back up with everyone where we left off, and it won't be an issue. And I hope this video doesn't end up too long. I know I said I was gonna talk about it tomorrow, but it kind of goes with the story. So I'm gonna talk about kind of what's been going on in the first part initially since I left social media. Maybe about a week after I deleted Instagram, there was like a noticeable increase in my productivity. And also when I was working, I was fully focused on things just because I didn't feel like I had to go check my Instagram notifications. I didn't fall into like the rabbit hole of death scrolling for an hour through Reels. I also was able to get back into reading. I think the thing about Instagram is that it's a really easy way to spend a few hours of your day. And so when I open my phone, when I'm either waiting in line or like I'm just like chilling on my bed, my default instinct was to just open Instagram. And I had removed it from my home screen a long time ago. I had like built up the muscle memory of literally scrolling into like the app drawer on iOS 15, 14 and just scrolling to Instagram. And so even once I deleted it, I would find moments where I was bored, where I would just instantly scroll and realize Instagram wasn't there. And I replaced that habit with the Kindle app on my phone. But because of that, I was able to start reading again. And I think reading is one of those things that like I just don't want to fall out of because I have gotten so many like direct benefits from it. There are people watching me. This is kind of weird. Anyways, yeah. And so then Ramadan happened. If you're not Muslim, basically Ramadan is like our religious month. We fast every single day of the month, which means there's no food or water from sunrise to sunset. It's usually like a time for us to get closer to God. And in that, like Ramadan this year, I think I was able to make more progress in my religion than in any other Ramadans. And I would say that like a big part of that is just because I didn't have social media and I felt almost disconnected from the world in a sense. I was able to give a lot of thought to like what I want to do now that my gap year is ending. I've been on a year off of school, literally like no academic responsibilities, and I am going to be jumping back into school in the fall this year in August. I'm gonna be moving out and living with one of my like childhood best friends, and that's gonna be such a big life shift for me. And during this time off of Instagram, I've had a lot more time to think about what my like future life goals are. But I think that kind of transitions into the part about what I'm going to be doing after I'm back on social media. So I'm going to save that for tomorrow. All right, so is that too overexposed? No, that's good. All right, so I guess the first thing, before I talk about like what I'm going to be doing once I'm back on the platform, I came up with a list of things that I'm going to be doing to prevent myself from using social media more than I want to. And I put these in my newsletter, so if you're subscribed to that, you probably already heard this, but if not, links in the description. And from these 4 things, the first one is I'm going to be deleting the Instagram app when I'm not using it, to prevent myself from like just randomly opening the app for 10 minutes and then scrolling until like 2 hours later. Also, this means that every time I do use Instagram, it's intentional and I know what I'm going to be doing on the app. For example, to post a story or to post something, or because one of my friends told me to check a group chat. I think things like that are fine. I just want to prevent myself from getting sucked back into using the app multiple hours a day without knowing why I'm using it. And one of the main reason for this is so that I can like maximize the benefits for being on Instagram and kind of prevent myself from as many of the negatives as possible. The second thing is I'm not going to be re-downloading the TikTok app. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, to be honest. I will admit that the app is like a lot of fun to use. I don't know how I can watch 6-second videos for like 2 hours, but it happens. And that's like the main reason I don't want to go back. I've never really like used TikTok and then closed like the app afterward and thought that whatever I was doing on the app was like really worth it. To be honest, like even if I might use it for like a business project in the future or like advertising, I'm probably not going to be using my personal account, and I'm probably going to delete that soon as well. The third thing is I'm going to try not to associate like too deeply into the circles that I used to be in that made social media clout their like end all be all or like their sole purpose for existence, because I know that if I am surrounded by these people over time, it's going to get back into my head. And I'm gonna, even if I don't want to, unknowingly I'm going to make Instagram again like a big part of like where I spend my time and my effort, and I don't want that to happen. And the final thing is I'm gonna be FaceTiming or like meeting up in person with my friends more, as opposed to just text conversations. In California, the COVID restrictions are like pretty lessened now. Mostly everyone is vaccinated. And the reason that I'm doing this is when people replace human interaction with text conversations, it feels like they are connected with a person, when in reality, it doesn't give your brain, texting doesn't give your brain the benefits that real conversation do. And the last thing is now what I'm going to be doing as far as like my career side, or like what I'm going to be doing once I'm back on the app. Probably not going to get back into commercial photography and videography, to be honest, unless I really see that a project I'm offered is like really makes me excited. Then I'll take it, obviously. But to be honest, that doesn't happen too much anymore, just because a lot of the things I've been asked to do feels repetitive now, and it almost feels like a chore. And honestly, the money doesn't feel worth it anymore either. So I'm gonna be staying away from commercial for the most part. And yeah, I'm still gonna like make videos with my friends and take photos of my friends or with my friends. But I'm not going to be but I wanna move away from calling myself a photographer as fast as possible. And so what this means is that with my new time, like with this new time, because honestly, photography and filmmaking took up a lot of time, I want to dedicate a lot more of my time. Well, I don't really have a choice, so obviously a lot of my time is going to be going to school now, since I'm not going to be on a gap year anymore. But I also want to focus my efforts onto things that I feel help the world, or at least push my worldview into the world. I think it's a little hard to explain right now without giving too much away. But in the next few months, I'm going to be launching a project that I've been working on for over a year. And this is like the most stressful project I've ever worked on. And to think that it's finally coming out, it's just more stress. Like, I'm going to be announcing it on my newsletter before anything else. So make sure you're signed up. In fact, the newsletter is part of the project. It's a very small part of the project. So I think if you do subscribe, you will kind of see what I'm talking about over time. Also, another thing I'm realizing is that this is like the first time in a while I've been on a trip that hasn't been like almost entirely a photo mission. And so there are just like random stretches in the day where I don't know what I'm doing. And it's like nice, it feels weird. And it also feels weird that not spending every 5 minutes shooting feels weird. It's about to be sunset right now, and so I'm gonna fly the drone. Yesterday I got sand in one of the propellers, so I'm not sure if it's gonna take off, but I'm gonna try anyways, take it off from the balcony and hope that I don't like break it.
Drop the roof and let the smoke clear.